Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of DallasCowboys.com.
Here is Pollard all the way in for 6.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We're here for David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. Momentarily, a couple NFL notes. Paul's best friend, Jameis Winston, last night was very, very good in a New Orleans Saints preseason game. It looks like he may have locked up the no, Sean Payton hasn't said that, quarterback job in New Orleans. Andy Dalton named the starter for the Bears, although Justin Fields has had what appears to be a really impressive preseason.
You know, with the Saints, I don't know why you wouldn't, unless Jameis was just really bad. Keep it the way it was. Jameis is the starter, and Taysom Hill can do what he does. And then if Taysom Hill has to play, you know he can win games for it because he did last year. So I would keep it that way to leave Taysom Hill as the weapon that he is. If he's your starting quarterback, that kind of changes.
Yeah, I don't know if and I've been wrong. I don't know if Taysom Hill's a guy that is more valuable as your starting quarterback or as a Swiss Army knife.
No, he's definitely not as a starting quarterback. Yeah. No. He is what he is. He's not a starting quarterback in the NFL. He is a Swiss Army knife. That's how he will be used, I would imagine. He'll be a nice backup for Jameis, but Jameis pretty clearly is their quarterback after what we saw, in my opinion. And I think in pretty much everybody's opinion. And what a debut, or what a showing for Urban Meyer and the Jaguars in their game last night.
I thought Trevor Lawrence was going to die.
Yeah.
He took some hits. It was one scramble, picked up a first down. He took a couple of hits. He's going to have to be careful. There's how many running quarterbacks, even those who are elite, like even Lamar Jackson slows down a little bit. We've seen Cam. It's got him beat up. How many of them actually continue to run at that same level 3 to 5 years after they get in the league?
Not many. I mean, it takes a while. You take hits. You only have so many in your body, yeah.
David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. I saw your note, David. They worked out. They had the practice outside. Is that right today? You had to go get maybe sweat bullets?
Yeah. We were outside today, and tell you what, yeah, Oxnard's a way better place to watch football practice than Frisco, Texas, I promise you.
Oh, Lord. 95 degrees compared to like 74 with a little cool breeze, right?
Yeah, and I think, I looked at my thing. The heat index said it felt like 102, which just tell me how it feels. Like, don't tell me what the temperature is. If it's 95 but it feels like 102, that's what I care about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was pretty miserable. Can't lie.
David, Jerry Jones today, came out with, his very pro-vaccination stance. They've had COVID issues with the Cowboys. Are they concerned that any of these guys are long-term outs, or is this just vaccinated guys that have gotten sick?
I don't get the vibe that it's a super long-term deal. I mean, they came out the other day and said 93% of their team is vaccinated, so if you do the math, that means that there's maybe only 6 or 7 guys that aren't. So I feel like if there's 4 guys out, I feel like the odds are that most of them are vaccinated, if not all of them. In fact, I think, it sounds like at least 1 or 2 of them will probably be able to come back tomorrow. So I don't think this is a long-term concern with most of these guys. But again, I mean, that's why the league is pushing vaccinations. Is obviously it's not a 100% guarantee to keep you from getting COVID, but even if you get it, you're talking about being gone for 1 day to a week instead of 10 days to 2-3 weeks.
David, what does the backup quarterback situation look like? Saw where Cooper Rush is going to start this weekend?
I don't know if he's going to start this weekend, but at the very least, he's going to get the first team reps in practice leading up to the game. So if he does well, it's a good guess that he'll start against Jacksonville. And he looked good today. He obviously looked good in the game on Saturday night. It's interesting because, man, this really hasn't felt like a competition to this point in camp. Garrett Gilbert got all of the first team reps for the entire time that we were out there once Dak hurt his shoulder. And that was I mean, it just kind of looked like that was what it was going to be up until Cooper Rush entered the game on Saturday night and really made the most of his opportunity. So it's wild to think, like, if you had asked me on Saturday afternoon, I would have said, no doubt about it, Garrett Gilbert's going to be the backup quarterback for this team. But now it kind of looks like it's up in the air. So it'll be interesting to see how Cooper Rush takes this opportunity.
Okay, help me. Am I I would say am I clueless, and everyone can raise their hand. So the last preseason games are this weekend. Mm-hmm. And then when does the season start? Is it like in a week and a half, 2 weeks? Yeah. Is it like an extra week this year between the preseason and regular season?
Yes, so they shortened the preseason. It's a whole. I mean, the Cowboys are going to play they're going to play 4 games because of the Hall of Fame game, but there's only 3 preseason games, and yeah, there's a gap now. You know, roster cuts used to happen Labor Day. Roster cuts have always happened Labor Day weekend, and the games right after that. But with the shortened preseason, everybody's going to be done playing their games by, I think, August 29th, and then cuts are due on the 31st. So from the time you make your final cuts to the time you play, I think the Cowboys will have 9 days and the rest of the league will have, 12 or whatever because they play on Sunday. So there's way more time between cuts and the start of the season. And honestly, I really like it.
Me too.
It draws a clearer line between training camp and preseason and the regular season and gives you a little more time to get your ducks in a row before the games start counting. So I'm a big fan of the change.
I am too. I guess I just missed that memo. They didn't call me, or I wasn't paying attention. But I just think that makes sense. You kind of have a chance to regroup. It used to be like a rush to the end. You cut people, you pick them up and play. And I do think this might maybe allow the first week or two to be better football as well. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, I agree. Like it almost felt anticlimactic. Like, you're starting your preparations for game week before your practice squad is even completely set because all of that dust hasn't settled. So I just think it'll be cleaner. I think it'll help teams as well as maybe help some players. And selfishly, I really love that roster cuts aren't going to be happening over Labor Day weekend anymore because that was always a massive pain in the butt.
Yeah. David, Osi Umenyiora. Now he's got a big opportunity. It looks he looked pretty good the other night against the Texans. I know that's not the best sample size, but has he moved himself maybe into the starting lineup?
I think so. And obviously a big part of that is because Neville Gallimore got hurt. But, everybody says injury creates opportunity. And Osa seems like he's running with it. That's a situation where, if he wasn't playing well, maybe you're like, oh, do we need to consider a trade? Do we need to look around at some veterans? Do we need to claim somebody else's guy when the cuts start happening? And then you look at Osa and you're like, we might actually be okay. This guy's got some juice to him. And, I think that's what we're seeing. Absolutely. Like, everybody's really amped about Micah Parsons, and rightfully so. But Osi Umenyiora is, like, right there in the conversation in terms of, like, the most impressive rookie to this point in training camp. And, if you ask me right now, I think he's got a real shot to be one of your starting tackles for the season opener.
All right, so Micah Parsons drafted early. We hear about it, the build-up. He's a talker. He's a personality, obviously a hell of a player. And there were maybe a few things here and there, but is he better than you thought he would be, at least so far, knowing it's the preseason? But is he even better than you thought, seeing what you've seen so far?
I'm better. I want to be more specific because obviously, like, he's so freakishly talented. I mean, you knew when you saw the guy run a 4.3 at like 6'3", 250, you realize that he's a really special athlete. I don't know about better, but I will say is I'm surprised and I'm impressed about how much they're doing with him. And that was my concern when they drafted him. I was like, are you drafting this guy to play off-ball linebacker? Because that feels like a waste of a top 12 pick. But if you're drafting him to play off-ball linebacker, rush the passer, and just kind of be an all-around hybrid, now we're talking. And that's what he looks like. He's doing a little bit of everything. He's calling the defense. He looks solid in coverage. He's a plus tackler, and he gets after the quarterback. I mean, that play he made on Saturday night where, he bulldozed Houston center and chase Tyrod Taylor to the sideline. It wasn't a sack. It's not going to show up on the stat sheet, but, those are game-changing types of plays. And so the amount of stuff that he is doing, 5 weeks into his NFL career is super, super encouraging.
How much of a bummer is it for Malik Hooker that he's now in the protocol after he's finally back at practice and seemingly picking things up well?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer for us. We don't get to watch him. And, it's interesting, they didn't give Malik Hooker a ton of money. It's not like he's got a ton of job security, but I imagine that he's probably going to make this team. And so it sucks for him that he's missing out on this opportunity to get more reps and get more comfortable in the defense. Same thing goes for, Israel Mukwamu is another one. It's COVID found its way to the safety room, I guess. It seems like what happened. A guy like Mukwamu, that's really interesting because now he probably needs that tape in the final preseason game to give himself the best shot to make the team. And now it seems, that seems like it might be in jeopardy that he'd be available to play in that game. So, yeah, I mean, there's never a good time to contract a deadly virus, but the week before roster cuts doesn't seem like a great time to do it at all.
No, not at all. David, your thoughts? Your LSU Tigers, we always have to try to start squeezing one of these in as we get closer to the start of the season. I know there's a couple of weeks. Your thoughts about them in the bounce-back year under Coach Orgeron?
I'm pissed, to be honest with you, because I didn't realize this. I've been busy with Cowboy stuff, but LSU opens their season at UCLA in the Rose Bowl, and I realized a couple days ago that UCLA is playing this weekend. They're playing Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's an NCAA rule that says, if you play Hawaii, you're allowed to start, Hawaii is allowed to start their season a week early because of the amount of travel that goes into coming to the mainland and all that. So UCLA is getting a warm-up game to get their stuff in order before they play LSU. And that makes me nervous. I don't like the idea of playing your first game in 9 months against somebody that got to play last week. So can't say I'm thrilled about that, but I think they should be. I think they'll be a lot better than people are probably giving them credit for. I think, a lot of weird stuff happened last year. I don't think they were anywhere near as bad as the record implies. So I'm definitely very excited to get to watch them.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your time as always. David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com on Tuesdays at 5. Cowboys play Jacksonville to close out the preseason Sunday at noon. And then open up against, who is it? Tampa Bay.
Yeah, remember kind of
the Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, kind of the big facing the Super Bowl champs thing, and not the Giants for the umpteenth year in a row.
So I'll tell you this, and nobody's going to pick the Cowboys to win that game. I mean, really. But the most Cowboys thing that they could do is go and beat the Bucs and then lose the next 2 or 3 games. That would be a very Cowboys thing to do.
That would be them. That would be on point.
They play at San Diego week 2?
Los Angeles, but yes.
Yeah, that's right.
But go out and waste the Super Bowl champions on the night the banner gets pulled up to to open the season. Just waste them. Just make Tom Brady look like he's 66 years old, and then Justin Herbert rips you a new one. I mean, and Justin Herbert's a good young player. I'm not saying he couldn't, but that's very Cowboys. That's kind of what they do. I think one of the first times you and I hung out together outside of work, we had a company Christmas party, and the Cowboys were playing the Saints, and the Saints were heavily favored. It's they're not going to win this game. And you said, no, they're going to. No. And they kicked the Saints' ass. Yeah. I mean, but then they did what they do. And then they lost
to a team that was 4-8 the next week or two. That's just who they are. And believe me, my God, if they do win the opening game, you might as well, if you're not a Cowboys fan. Well, it's hard to turn on the TV anyway because they understand. Put the star up. We're doing it right here. Look at it on the screen.
Yeah.
And people all over the place, right? Yeah. All right.